See. How you doing? My name is Fred Cadena. I'm the chairperson / director of Comanche Nation Fair. Carolyn Hare Codapony is the vice chairman. We have B.J. Anderson as our secretary. Francis Talkany is the treasurer. Our 26th annual Comanche Nation Fair is September 22nd, 23rd, and 24th of this year. We have our deals? Yeah.
Yeah, he's got it.
We're going to talk about it.
Let me just give a little report. I'm going to give you guys a presentation, and Fred's going to help me because he was unavailable at the beginning of the fiscal year because of surgery he had. So I'm the one that made the budget. Okay, last year, I'm just going to, before we go to the first slide, I'm going to tell a little bit about what was reported in the newspaper. Last year, the crowd estimation was around a little over 142,000 visitors that came to the Comanche Nation Fair. It was our 25th annual, and this year is our 26th annual. We had the most camps that we have ever had. The police registers all the campsites, and there were 153 campsites. We had new places out here where there used to be between this new building behind us and over by where Comanche and PIO is now and CIP. That was all filled with new campsites, and it was really a beautiful thing to see all the camps that were here last year. And this year we're planning for a bigger and better fair. We're always striving to improve upon what happens the previous year. I just want to mention that it's a total volunteer effort. We don't have any salaries paid out of the fair budget. The employees have been doing this for 25 years, and none of the employees get paid. Last year was very organized. We are going to utilize some of the same people for cleanup this year because they did such an outstanding job last year. And also, we have had infrastructure improvements last year. Last year, the sound system was better. If you were here for the powwow, it was really jamming. It was really rocking because we had done improvements with the sound system. We also had improvements to the electrical outlets down there. We were able to add a lot more vendors. So we had new vendor space, and we didn't have any electrical issues with any of the booths losing power because we had that upgraded. Okay, and so we'll go ahead and go to the second slide, please. If you look at this budget, it's a $200,000 budget. It doesn't tell you much. So the next slide will show you exactly how this $200,000 is going to be spent. This is for Comanche Nation Fair 2018. We asked for an increase back up to $200,000. This year's budget is less than this amount that we're preparing for in September. It's $175,000 this year, but we're happy that we got to go back up to $200,000 because the next slide will show you what we plan to do with the additional money. Supplies and materials, $42,000. Computer supplies is $3,000. Non-capitalized equipment is $6,000. Travel and training, which we don't really do training, but it's mainly for travel, $3,500. Utilities, $500. Vehicle expense, which is fuel, $1,000. Equipment rental and office supplies is $1,000. Consulting contractual service, $68,000. Service agreements, $2,000. Comanche Nation Fair expense, $30,000, and outreach activities are $43,000. If you go to the next slide, it'll show you a more deeper understanding of those line items on that budget. The expenditures are spread over, for instance, the supplies will cover all of these events, which will be 24 events. We have 80 events that are sponsored by programs. For example, I'll give one off the top of my head since it's the Early Childhood Development Center and I know about that one. They sponsored an event for the first time last year, which was a Juicy Art, where we had like 78 families that came with their children of all ages, and they came in here to watch Taker Hall, and they had a painting activity, and they had snacks and juice during the hymn singing. So that's a sponsored event. The sponsored events are paid for by the programs or from sponsorships, outside sponsorships. We have 16 events coming from the budget that are paid for on that $200,000 budget. Estimated cost is $87,000 for the 24 events. We have fair staging set up. The estimated cost is $56,000. When I say fair staging, Fred, what am I talking about?
The stage for concerts and stuff like that. Different events. Yes,
Traffic, when you see the way that the traffic's flowing, the people that park the cars, it's just like staging the whole big event. So there's numerous costs that come under that. The profit items estimated cost is $19,000. That's going to be T-shirts that we sell at the powwow. We also have coffee mugs, and we're still selling some of the leftover inventory. So if you're interested in purchasing any, you can get them at a really good price. So we have bumper stickers, T-shirts, and coffee mugs, and some programs. And we're always selling those. So if anyone's interested, please contact us. Admin supplies are just that. And advertising is we advertise in different magazines and places across the country for our fair. And this next year, in 2018, the additions that we requested for was some travel expenses, $3,500, infrastructure improvement, which is mainly going to be lighting, permanent lighting, down at the dance ground, and we're always interested in improving the lighting, especially down around the softball fields. We're always talking about that. And we're going to be replacing the teepees, some of the teepees, a little at a time, and making sure that we secure those and that they're kept in the best condition from year to year.
I have some questions on your budget. On that, under the 24 events, the first item, 8 events are sponsored. That's not actually part of that estimated cost of $87,000, so it doesn't really need to be there. Is that correct?
Right.
All right. And then exactly what is the travel expenses?
That travel expenses that we added to it is going to be to actually go pick up the teepee poles and for fuel mainly.
Oh, okay. And then you had on here, which y'all have it every year, profit items, estimated cost, and I know y'all charge the vendors. So how much money did y'all make from the vendors and the profit items that y'all sold last year?
I believe it was around 40-something thousand. Hold on, I have the figure here. Revenues generated as of the end of the year, 9/30/16, totaled $49,490.52.
Okay, so is that part of the money that we're going to be voting on at the general council to, how we're going to split that? Or, I mean, Or is it did y'all spend that?
No,
No, we didn't spend that.
I'll let the tribal administrator.
When they're allocating money and what the revenues are,
Uh-huh.
it depends on whether they actually expended more than that or not. So it really comes down to, in other words, how much was your budget last year?
175,000 last year.
Okay, and so what was your total expenditures? I mean, how much of that really was left over after everything that you expended was covered? So how much was actually spent?
Phyllis, the audience didn't hear the question out there. Go ahead and say the question again, will you?
This was at the end of the year. It may have changed since.
Phyllis?
I'm listening.
That's what you were allocated, but that was your total expenses?
The audience live stream didn't
Yes, that's
understand
true.
your question.
Okay, so the question that you asked, Phyllis, they were allocated $198,000 last year, but they spent $243,000. So
Oh,
the
so
revenue
they overspent.
is,
And
well,
you're-
it becomes a wash because it's not budgeted and it's what they use to, cover all of these activities.
But I'm trying to relate it to what we had talked about previously.
Right.
That the people that did not overspend are being punished by having their money put before another referendum vote. So these guys overspent. Yes, they made a profit of 49,000, but that 49,000 was not put into that, whatever that
What was
account the
allocated.
chairman's calling for us to go before another referendum vote. Is that
Protected
correct?
account.
Well, no, for clarity, it's still in their account. All of these monies we're talking about that you're asking, they haven't been moved into any other account. They're
Okay.
still within the programs
But did they expend part of that 49,000
to cover their expenses, yes.
to cover the overage?
Right. And that's how a lot of these programs operate. I mean, earlier this morning, you heard the tourism talk about their situation. And in the past, what has happened is they always gave them a percentage of their funds. So in other words, if it cost $200,000 for them to be fully operable, they would only allocate $100,000, and so any revenue that they earned above it went back in to cover that overage. So it's backwards. That's
So
the
now how
problem,
much
is it's
is
always
their-
been backwards. So this year with their budget, them working with the committee and formulating that budget, they actually gave them the money for full coverage so that we would be able to see really how much revenue are these people gaining.
But how much did they spend again last year?
243.
But they're only asking for 200,000 this coming year. So it's still not enough. They should be asking for 243,000 if you're going to cover the cost of that fair. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, they're the ones that formulate the budget.
Yeah, I'm
so
not asking you. I'm asking the two that are in
Oh.
charge of the fair, because they're the ones that did the budget.
Well, let me say this. Our treasurer's not here. We're not the treasurer, but
But you were on the committee,
Yes,
so you
we're
should
on-
know something.
yes, we are on the committee, and we did project out some things that were sponsored. We're looking ahead, and so we have to look ahead at what we have, which is one thing that we're depending on is more revenue, because you see, this is the first year that we have been able to utilize our revenue. In years past, we haven't had a bank account. We have not had benefit of those funds before.
Well, that doesn't really matter. So let me ask you about that 200,000 budget. Are you then counting on using your revenue, or is that revenue already in there? Or so do you plan on spending 240,000 this coming year, since you made 49,000 last year?
We were at the time, we were told that we may be able to utilize that money.
So yes or no, you do plan on having a $249,000 budget, assuming that you're going to be able to spend the
Well,
revenue?
I'm hoping that we make at least what we made this year next year, because the fair hasn't happened yet. We're counting on making at least $50,000 in revenue this
So is
year.
that a yes, that you plan on spending 250,000 on this year's fair?
Yes, if they allow us to.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
How many times have y'all bought teepees?
We never have.
We never bought the
Okay,
teepees.
Used
I
houses.
thought they always came from housing.
Yeah, they used to come
The
from housing,
teepees
but
originally,
They got so old, they deteriorated, and
Okay, I'm just
so that's
asking.
why
I
we're
mean, I'm
needing to
not,
get some more now. Yes.
I'm not giving y'all a hard time.
That's-
TP poles?
Yeah.
I'm just curious, where do you get your poles?
Where
we were talking about going up to Crow, weren't we?
was it? Crow, Montana?
Crow Fair, Crow Agency,
Yeah, I think that's where.
Crow Agency.
Wow, I have to get
Montana.
part of it, get
Was
me
that
some
to get
poles.
the-
Well, Colorado, they charge a lot of money. They do.
Yeah.
But
So it comes from Montana?
that'd be the best ones. I
That's
mean,
where we're
price-wise.
Wow.
That's where we're looking.
Thank you.
They have a pawn
looking-
shop up
we're
there that
looking at-
has some really good teepees that go here that go for 10,000. Down up there, they're about $500.
This is the first time we're purchasing them, so if you guys know of a really good place to get them, I would appreciate it if you let us know, because we want to get the best price and the best value for this. We have never purchased teepees before.
Well, you know how you put things in storage at Bucks? They put teepees in storage at Crow, Harding, Montana.
I think it was 2008 or 9. Keith Yacchiani was chairman at the time. He didn't have time to mess with the Comanche Nation Fair. He was going to let it just go. And so people from the community took it upon themselves. 2008 or 9, we didn't have any money for a fair. Keith Yacchiani was new chairman, and he had to, do business for the tribe. But the community decided they didn't want to let it go. So people from the community were the ones that did the fair with no budget. I think Keith did give us $500 to feed at one meal or something. We had no money, nothing. We raised money. We somehow got the electrical, and they had a little tiny carnival. And so now you guys are getting $200,000. I know it's grown, and it's a wonderful thing, but we had nothing. We had absolutely nothing to start with. And we got a lot of grief from Miss McDaniel because she wanted to take over whatever. But, we had nothing. Surely you guys can do something with what you're getting now without making more. I know you're doing a good job, but,
It's $250,000.
And I had another question.
It's $250,000.
I don't know. Nobody pays us for camping, but we camp. But we enjoy it. And another thing the question I had was, when you do the parade, you start here, you go all the way around. Why can't y'all start here and come up this way? That would be a good idea for us, because we're camped on this side and we don't get candy. I know it, but that was just a question I had in my own mind.
Oh, yeah.
To start this way and go that way and then end up.
This is Fred's second year as chairman.
Well, that's what I always say. Come to the meetings, and we can get all this stuff.
How do y'all advertise the meetings?
BJ puts them out. So
Who's BJ?
Anderson, she's our secretary.
So how
Our
does
next
she-
meeting is March 23rd. We have it here.
March 23rd, what time?
10 o'clock. I think it's going to be in an old conference room.
Okay.
That's why we encourage people to come. And
All right.
We put it on Facebook, website. We have
I
our
mean,
own
which
website? Too.
website? I know it's not on the tribal website, because
No,
I do look
we
at
got
that
our,
daily.
We got our own website. It's Comanche
Oh.
Nation Fair.
Oh, okay. Does everybody hear that out in, TV land or
Yeah,
internet
we got
land?
our own website now.
The fair is on the website of their own. Is it called what? Comanche Nation Fair?
Yeah.
Comanche Nation Fair.
Now, I did try to get to y'all's website, and I could not do it because I did, was told that y'all had a website, but
And we have a Facebook account too,
It was
but
hard
we
to
don't
get to.
manage that one. I don't know who does that one.
so if y'all don't manage it, who manages your Facebook?
I don't know. That's what I say. I don't know who manages that one. But we
What-
have one. I've
Can
seen it.
y'all, JJ's right here. Can y'all notify her when y'all are going to have it and put it on a text wide that text thingy that goes out to everybody in the world?
La- Last year was the first year we had a website.
Well,
Thanks, Phyllis.
that's not the
That
first
is a
year
good
you had a
question.
meeting.
I didn't know that the fair meetings were open to the public. I always thought that, no one even told me that they were open to the public. I always thought that
I
they were
did
for the
too.
meetings.
It was employees
But now
and
that I know, I will start putting it out to the public, and everyone's invited to come, I guess.
Thank you.
I just want to remind everyone that it is a total volunteer effort. We don't get paid to be out here all weekend. And the people that coordinate each of the events, where there are a lot of events that we had, like I mentioned, it was up on the slide. There are 24 events, and that's why we have a lot of events that are sponsored, because we cannot provide materials or the expenses for those events that are sponsored by the programs. And it takes
I got
a
a
lot of
question.
work. And last year we had a lot of more people that volunteered than ever, because we had incentive items that were donated by the community, the local community, and we gave away prizes. The casino was a great big sponsor last year. We really appreciate everything that they gave us for our employees, to give them incentives to volunteer at all the different events. It takes a lot of manpower.
I do have a question, and it's just based on something you said, because you said it was voluntary and you don't get paid for it. But when you come to the meetings or do anything on a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, do you clock out and take an annual leave when you're working with the fair items?
No.
No, then so you're getting paid.
But we don't get paid that whole weekend we're out here.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being out here.
Anything else?
Okay.
Oh.
Go ahead, Gabby.
This is related.
2 minutes, Gabby.
Not exactly on the fair here, but I would say this all goes to show how important, or that we have our own cultural center and museum, and that way we can have our, like a cultural center, we can have it with a dance grounds and amphitheater, and we would have a. She mentioned 142,000. Well, they would all be going to our place, and and then we also get other tourists that go to the mountains. So that will be increased, and other tribes have cultural centers, and so they already invented the wheel, and they're making a lot of money. So we could use them as an example, like the Cherokees. They have a great big one. And we have year-round, art shows. Our own people will make money, sell items, artwork, and then the normal things, raffles, T-shirts. So we could, and then related things like RV park, restaurants, food places, our own convenience stores, and it would. Well, anyway, I think we could make this turn into something big. And instead of expenses, we'll be looking at income.
That's a great idea.
On that, Gabby, the Cherokees on their Labor Day, they spend $1.5 million. Chickasaws on their community days with the State of the Nation, $3.2 million.
But they're white people, there's more of them.
The thing is this, powwows put up $1 million. The revenue brought in to the vendors, individual vendors that are Comanche, you can't even measure that. And that's all I can say. I have to be very impartial.
I'm not an issue with that. It's just, I do have a question on the infrastructure, because you have up there for 10,000. Are you going to be paying that to the capital improvement program, or you be paying that outside vendor?
Outside vendor. It's to
Okay.
get new lights put up around the system.
So our CIP department can't do that? I mean, because
I don't
we
know
just
if
be
they
paying
do that.
ourselves and saving some money. And I noticed that there was no prize money up there for the contest. Does that come from a different source?
No,
It's
in
the event. Each
Oh, it's
event
under
has
one of
a-
the events.
Each event
Okay.
has their own budget.
Okay,
It's all
all
in
righty.
there. Is that it? Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Comanche Nation Fair.
Thank you, guys.
Is it possible, because we're trying to gather gifts to take to the Shoshone reunion, is it possible y'all can throw some T-shirts or coffee mugs at us?
Can you come? Yeah, we don't mind. Do you want to come to our next meeting?
Yeah.
What's the date on it? March the 16th?
When's the next one?
March 23rd.
March the 23rd at 10 o'clock in the old conference room. All righty.